Our second presenter for today is FAWZI Hassan BAKHIET. FAWZI is our first UMAPS scholar from Sudan, so we're very happy that we were able to add Sudan to the UMAPS family through FAWZI joining us. He comes to us from the Department of Archaeology at Nile University in Sudan, and he also has an affiliation in Sudan with the National Corporation for the Antiquities and the Museums in Sudan. And here at Michigan, FAWZI has worked with Jeff Emberling from the Kelsey Museum, and he will talk to us today about his research on the archaeology of Napata, the capital city of the ancient Kush-Sudan Empire. FAWZI.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you turn your microphone on.
Yeah.
It's in your, oh, it's on.
Thank you very much for you, Andreas. I'm so happy to be here with you and talking about Sudan. My name is FAWZI. I'm from Sudan and from University of Nile, Department of Archaeology. And I'm working with Jeff Emberling. My research is about the landscape settlement around Napata, the capital of ancient Kush. It's not okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so just to highlight where we found Sudan as just on the eastern and Central Africa, close to the Red Sea. And here we have the region, what the capital of Kush found. And this region, it's in Sudan, we found there many cataracts. It started geographically from the north, here in the Sudanese and Egyptian border. And the region why here we work is close to the Fourth Cataract region. So just give you some highlight about the Sudanese civilization. In Sudan, as much of African country, it started in the prehistoric period. So we have here the prehistoric period, which started with Paleolithic times, and then the Mesolithic, and Neolithic. So here we have the kingdom of Kush, which is divided in the first kingdom of Kush and second kingdom of Kush. The first one we have Karma, and the second one we have Meroe and Navata. Then we have the medieval period in Sudan, which have many the Christian kingdoms, and we finish by the Islamic period. So just give you a short information about the first kingdom of Kush, which found in the area of the Third Cataract region. And here we have the capital of this kingdom, which is Kingdom of Karma, the third millennia up to the second millennia BC. Here we have the capital, and then this is one of the most bigger mud brick building in whole of Africa. Going to the south, we have another kingdom of Kush. It's now today we would like to talk about. It's Navatan Kingdom, and the Jabal Barkali, it's the center or the capital of this kingdom. This period, which well known in the archaeology in the world, with the 25th dynasty. So the king of this period control all the Nile Valley during more than 50 years. So it was quite big empire at that time. And here we have a small statues, you call it Ushapti or Shawapti. They are in Boston, because in all these archaeological big sites, they have pioneer American archaeologists working in these sites, which you call George Andrew Reisner. This is a very interesting sites called Kuru that Jeff Emberling worked in. And here we have very important symmetry. This is a burial of the king and queen. And they adopt some influence from Egypt. And here in the south, of just close to between the 5th and 6th cataract, there is another empire called Meroitic period, which we have, I think, the bigger amount of pyramids around the world. So they have their own religions, the god Abademak, and then they have all their cursive, or the language, Meroitic language. And then they have even the central religion center far from the Nile, because normally in the Nile Valley we have that the maximum of the civilization is just related to the Nile. Here we have a city, it's on the Nile, and another religion city centers is a little bit far from the Nile. During the medieval time, we have the most important 3 kingdoms, which started from the north in Napata, just close to the Sudanese and Egyptian borders. The Napata, and this is the capital in Faras. It's under the Lake Nasir. And here we have very interesting native wall painting of Jesus. And the next one, it's on the middle. It's named Maguria. The capital is in Ondungula, where we have the very nice Nubian church. Here, this is an example for the columns, and here a model for the church from outside. Also, during the Islamic period, Islam introduced the country a little bit late. It started officially as a state in the 15th century. We have the kingdom of FAWZI in the middle of Sudan, the Blue Nile, and then other kingdom in the western Sudan in the area of Darfur. Here we have the famous painting during the Mahdi at the 19th century. And here we have the tomb of the Mahdi, one of the revolutionists of the Islamic period. So now we started to talking about the research. It's around the area of Barkal. So the Barkal is here. And here we have the new dam, which was built 15 years ago. That's why the maximum of the archaeological research is focusing in this area. So as a result of this research, we took part of some background of some missions working in this area. So we have the Sudanese mission, and then we have a Polish mission, and then we have Italian and Polish mission, and then American mission working in the around Barkal and between Dam up to Nuri. So we end with the German mission working close to the Nile and further from desert of Bayuda. So the aim of this project is to collect all this data from all these publish and just record from these all missions, and then try to make a sheet or exit sheet to compile all this information, and then study the community of which live around this area, because can give us more details about the economic and give us more information about the landscape in the region in general. So take all this information and develop a GIS model which can just help us to understand all the details and different chronological phases. So for future archaeological research, because this could be a base for all the archaeologists and archaeological research in Sudan, just can put more data to build this database. So a geographical information system is one of the important program who can just help us to build this database and combine all database and to make a map in details. Because to make a map, so we need information. So the sheet, we need to use some devices. So GPS and all the devices can help us, to telestation, to help us to collect the information and database. And then to make layers. So every layers can give us information about our works. And then finally, to build a map with coordinate with all these legends can give us more details about our research. So like this map here, and then this is just a general map about all the archaeological sites in the region. So we collect all this data, and then we make it with categories. So we have categories like typology, so the type of these archaeological sites. It's like cemetery, like church, like fort, like mosque, quarry, rock art settlement, temple, etc. So we have another another map for chronology. So it started with Paleolithic, Neolithic, and then up to Islamic. So this map can give us more details about the information. We can just take it from this map. So on your left here, we have a type of site. So we know that from this map that, for example, settlement site is just the maximum archaeological sites just become settlement. And here on the right, we have a chronology of sites. So we know that the prehistoric site is a huge amount, and then we just have few sites, for example, for New Kingdom. The size, a site which documented, it's just we have to make a detailed measurement just to know what's the size of the site, and then to drawing, for example, make pictures, and then document the site in deep. So here we have an example of the rock drawings which found on the area of the Fourth Cataract area. Here we are focusing in details about the settlement around Barkel. So the first map, it was general, all the sites. Here we are focusing just briefly in the Navatan, in the settlement site around Barkel. So here we find that the Navatan sites approximately just around Barkel, and then we have other archaeological sites which can just spread it from the area of the Fourth Cataract up to Hoshmar. And this is just a typological map, and here we have a map who can just give us what it means settlement. So we have here fort, and we have building, so that means houses and palace and whatever. And then we have a religious building, so like temple, like other sites. So this map also can give us, can tell us about what the type of sites. For example, here we have very interesting sites in the area of the Fourth Cataract area. So this is just a settlement, can explain how the people at that time, they live in this small circle, sometimes different shape, from stone. There are another sites also, for example, in the area of Jabal Barkel. We have everything here. We have just palace built by the mud brick, which from the king. And then we have temple, which just built of the stones. And here in this area, the importance of Jabal Barkel, it was the main area what we found the Egyptian god Amun. So we have two areas in the Nile Valley, the Karnak, the first, and the second part in Jabal Barkel. That's why the archaeologists mentioned that is a holy mountain, and Jeff and Berling start working there. And then here we have also another building of the palace in different periods. Can also give us that the area is use it from different time, from the Paleolithic up to the Merwetic. And then here we have different map can show us the variety of archaeological sites like New Kingdom and like Navatan period. Here we have the many important sites, especially if you are looking to Jabal Barkel, the center. We have also another city. This is named Sanam Abu Dom, which they just found big center of building, and can tell us, so through GIS, through the information, we can just compile all this data. So we have here, for example, we have the Google map, and then here we have a drawing, so we can just put as a layers that archaeologists make a drawing. So we can understand much better what we have. So here we have the Merwetic settlement and the Christian Islamic. All together, we find that the maximum of the sites are just religion. So we have temple here around Barkel, and we have many church, and we have mosque. Concerning the big building, we have a variety of fortress in desert of Bayuda, which can different uses. For example, that one in the desert is a little bit far from the Nile. And here we have another example, it's just close to the Nile, which now unfortunately is underwater. The uses of these fortresses could be defensive and could be control the trade. So settlement distribution on the sites can give us some patterns of settlement among these sites. So rock art site as unknown between Jabal Barkel and Old Dungula or Old Dungula. So we have very little presentation of the Karma period. Compare it with the Fourth Cataract and the Sixth Cataract, we have many. Also, there are just two sites which dating to new kingdoms in between Kawa and Barkel. It is a very long distance, and significance increase in construction around Barkel during this Navatan period. No known site which dating to post-Merwetic period. So as a recommendation, I think it's a time to have a new survey around Barkel, especially in desert, because in such area like Karma and Merowi, when we go far from the Nile, we find much better archaeological sites. So this survey, you can use satellite image, same as geophysics and more technique. And I think also the ethnographical studies can give us more light, more information about the landscape and settlement around the area. So I would like to thank deeply the African Study Center team, especially Andreas, Enrica, Kathy, and Daniel, and all the team. And also thank Dr. Jeffen Berling for his advice and support. Also, my colleague Greg Tucker for GIS course, because I started to study GIS here during this period. And also, my thanks going to Christine for the writing workshop. My thanks also go to my colleague, my new family, the UMAPS, which appreciate very much that the period was very nice and it's fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, FAWZI, and another perfectly timed presentation. I had a very stern conversation with our UMAP scholars about timing, and I'm very happy to see they listen. And very interesting. So we have time for questions. From the audience, if there's a question, I'll ask you to throw the microphone to the next question. Okay, we have Nkem in the back. Lade, can you throw to Nkem? And Nkem, please introduce yourself so that people who might be listening in on Zoom know who's asking the question.
All right, I'm Nkem Kumba with the mathematics here at UMAPS. So this happens to be a topic of interest to me. I'm a big Egyptologist. I just want to find out from the settlement patterns that you've come across. Have you thought about aligning that with the population and demographics of the time to give a more holistic history of the not only the building and the sites, but the overall civilizations of that time of Kush? There's plenty of work in that area, but sometimes it's very confusing, and it's good to see the Sudanese themselves doing the work in their own space, unlike what we're very familiar with. But juxtaposing that, superposing that on maybe the historical narratives to see how it fits a big picture of the economy, the population, the history of the world at that time in that space.
Thank you very much. This is a really nice question. And I think during the Karma period, for example, the Old Kingdom of Kush, through the cemetery and through the settlement they found, we can estimate, for example, how many population we have their traditional, for example, their because through the archaeological sites you can't mention all these details. That's why I just hope and ask to have another things, because archaeology it's need interdisciplinary studies within. So for example, the ethnographical study can help us as archaeologists to understand what we have on the site. So for example, that when you're just focusing on the Jabal Barkal, so we have an ancient city, old city. So sometimes the building itself can explain you how many people there stay there. But they are not just in the city, they are just boundaries, they are urbanism. That's why I think with Dr. Jeff would like to build a new project, enlarge, to understand the landscape of these sites. So not focusing just in digging and surveying and documenting the site itself, but go around and understand. Because with these things, you can build a really database. I think.
Yeah, I like that approach, and you also mentioned in your at one of your final slides kind of what comes next, and I like that the last thing was ethnography.
Yes.
So yeah, we need to also look at the history and at the ethnography, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes the study interesting and difficult, because you need to work with so many subdisciplines to tell the whole story about what happened there.
Yeah.
Any other questions from our audience? Throw back to Lade.
My name is Omolade Adumbi. This is a quick question. I saw in one of the slides that you showed, there were Christian settlements and Muslim settlements. So I wonder if those settlements were in close proximity to each other, and if they were, what can they tell us about Sudan and that area today?
I think concerning the religion in Sudan, we have a nice harmony from the prehistoric time. That you can find, for example, we have such religion before Christianity. As I mentioned, during the Navatan period, we have God Amun and God, the Egyptian God. So, and after that, we have same God using during the Meroitic period, and they have a local God. When the Christianity arrived into the country, it was very welcome, because it's just the people just converted to Christianity because they have already in their mind that the religion stay there. So when the Christianity is not finished by force, for example, so we have a nice example for your things that in Old Dongula we have a church which has become a mosque, but inside they keep all the painting. And I never seen that I don't know, in my just, so in the same area, you can find the painting which is going back or dating to the Christianity, and then people pray in the same time, okay? So in the settlement area, we have different layers, because for example, if you would like to talk about the historical period, for us it's layers, because you can just find Sudan today is on the top, and then when you go down, you can just find different layers. They can use, for example, reuse the materials to build another building, for example. A building which go to the Meroitic period can just reuse the stone to build a Christian castle or church or whatever. And we find a nice stone with Navatan period, with Nomin, with the Christian, it used in the church. And we find a nice materials used in the house, which belong to the leader of the Muslims, Mahdi. So I think the interaction between the religions, even in Khartoum, you find variety of church up to date. So this is what I mentioned when you said ethnographical survey can help also to understand these details. I think I respond to you.
Anybody else?
Okay, if I can ask some questions.
Say your name.
I'm Milian. I'm part of the UMAPS cohort, the fall cohort 2021. And you were showing some pictures with archaeological objects, which are a bit similar to what we have seen in Egypt, and also for the Christianity civilization, the wall paintings. Those paintings look similar to what we see in some of the churches in Ethiopia currently. So do you see any, I'm just curious, do you see any relationship between the civilization in Sudan by that time, in Egypt, and also the Christianity in Sudan and the current Christianity in Ethiopia? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very nice question. I think in the Nile Valley, altogether, the civilization is, in somehow, there are some connection. The real, border between Ethiopia and Sudan is just made in the 19th century, and also with Egypt. So that's why when we are looking for the archaeology, we're looking globally, not just in the region. We find some similarity, some interconnection between Egypt and Sudan. For example, during the Navatan period, if you are just looking to this painting, this is just the influence from Egypt. The people during this period adopt this with just putting in local influence. So, for example, the objects, the goddess, they're supposed to use in all the Nile Valley. For the Christianity, I think they are a good connection. And Meroe, Meroitic Kingdom, so the 3rd century AD, it's finished by Aksumite kings. So I think there are just some links. So when we look into the officially kings or kingdoms in Sudan, it started in the 6th century. So that means 3 centuries later of this attack. So that means I think the Christianity started not officially very early, but as a state, it started in the 6th century. So there are some links between all the Nile Valley and I think with all Africa. That's why we think now we have to go to just all the direction in Sudan, because Sudan is in the center. So there are some commerce, there are some trade, just link between the Red Sea and the south, the east and the north. So this is, I think now we have many projects with the Ethiopian Authority for Archaeology. That's follow the early human being from Africa, and it started last year. And then I think the result, it was very nice. Thank you very much.
And as you know, we have a Zoom audience and we have a question from Zoom. If somebody can throw a cube to Enrico, who will be standing in and asking the question on behalf of our Zoom participant.
Yes, so this question is from Mohammed Nasr al-Din from the University of Gezira in Sudan. And the question is about fortifications. If you can say a little bit more about why there would be fortifications for residential settlements in the Nile Valley. Were those connected to a ruling clan, or were they for defense purposes or something else? Were they for government control? Were they for the trade routes, stations? So what can you tell us about the fortifications for residential settlements?
Well, thank you. It's really a good question. It's quite big. So there are some different fortification and castle in Sudan. For example, there are some residential fortification, especially in close to the Nile, which just the governor can stay, to just to deal with the administration. There are another fortress, just a defensive, because it just found in the cataract area, so it's just to protect the state. For example, when just looking for the Christian period, Napata and Alodia or Maguria, we have on the limit border between the two states, we have fortification. So this is just can be like defensive, and also for control the trade between the Nile, because if you are looking at the fortification, you have many towers. These towers can just protect the castle or the fortification from the desert, and another control the passage of the Nile. And in desert, it was very important, because in desert, we have many deserts in Sudan. We have Bayuda Desert, we have Eastern Nubian Desert. So to control also the trade and the commerce between some points with the north and south. I hope this is just.
Thank you. And thank you for our Zoom audience and for somebody joining us from Sudan. I'm really happy that that's possible. And that's one of the good things about Zoom, right, and COVID, that we now can do that. Sorry, Henrika.
Mohammed says it was a great answer. Oh, and Mohammed says, thanks a lot, that was a great answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, FAWZI.